Did you happen to notice a strange word in the psalm? Selah. Is that a person? Hi, Selah. No. Actually, it's a Hebrew word, and they're not quite sure what it means. But one of the possibilities, it means breath. Take a breath. That's what Shelley did when she was reading that. And I'm going to suggest that we do this when we hear this familiar gospel. The middle of Lent, in this cycle, is the Prodigal Son. 65 years ago, or 64 years ago, when I was a Jesuit novice up in what's now the Culinary Institute, they would have us do practice sermons before the entire, maybe 100 or so people in the refectory, in the dining room. And we would give our sermon, and the one that I was assigned was the Prodigal Son. So it's changed for me since then. But I'm just faithful for this God, as we saw in the every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variableness nor shadow of turning. Our hymn, Great is Thy Faithfulness, Thomas Chisholm extracted that phrase for this most beautiful hymn that we'll sing at the end of the service. Great is Thy faithfulness. So let's listen to this gospel, bearing in mind that since so many churches around the world follow the same readings that we're doing, they're hearing it together. It's familiar, and we're going to see if we can penetrate the over-familiarity of that. For example, the prodigal son. Yeah, the one who's really prodigal was his father, who was just outpouring in his generosity and his love. And then the one who's really prodigal is God. Prodigal divinity. As we were singing in the praise songs, that God's love is enduring. It never ends. It just keeps going. Nothing stops that. We stop it every once in a while in our way of being, but God never stops that. And that's so good to be aware of in all the changes and vicissitudes, fancy word, in our life, that God never stops loving us. So let's listen to this gospel and see if we can do some stretching. You got one son who's presumptuous, taking advantage of his father. Another son that wants to make sure, like a goody two-shoes, that he's got everything all stacked away without making any problems with his father and always faithful to him. And then there's the father in the center, as we'll see. Let's see if we can do some stretching and let your imagination go to find out what this could mean for you as you reflect on your own upbringing. If your role has changed to be a parent, what does that mean? What does it mean up against your child? Probably many of us didn't have fathers. I was blessed by one who was extremely loving all the time, very intense. When he would counsel his students, he looked them right in the face, and that intensity was always there with him. But you have your own stories of your parents. In this story, there's no lady around. Is he a widower? We don't know. But it's good to think about what was it like for him to be the father of a prodigal son and a presumptuous son, on the other hand, who always says, if I play all my cards right, I'll get the fatted calf. Let's hear the story. So it comes with a 3-verse introduction when it said, now all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to him. The Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling, saying, this fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them. Yeah. Always thinking, all the different sinners that were there, do you think before the Lord welcomed to sit at their table, now you got to be good, otherwise I'm not going to sit down with you. Didn't do that. His welcome right from the outset is what changed them. And that's so important for us because God never stops loving us. That beautiful image from James Tissot, 19th century painter. And that beautiful way in which the surrender of the prodigal son to his father, who just gives him a huge, huge hug. Wonder how long that hug went on. You could look him up, James Tissot, Prodigal Son, and keep that image before you. Because that's what God's doing to all of us. A big, beautiful hug. To have us feel not so much what we've done wrong, but what the Father's doing right is loving. Now, this is the third of three parables. First one is the lost sheep. That's why these verses are not included. The lost coin, remember that story? And then this is the lost son. Probably a better name rather than the prodigal. The lost son. And not just the guy who took off, but the one who was being so faithful to his father, he got lost too. Because he thought he could earn his father's love by being so faithful and so careful. He thought he could get, because he earned it. So here's the story. There was a man who had two sons. The younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of the wealth that will belong to me when you die." You know, these inheritances come upon death. It was like him saying to his father, let's pretend you kicked the bucket now, and I'll receive them. So he didn't care about whether his father lived or died. He just wanted the inheritance. So he took the inheritance. So he divided his assets between them. Didn't give it all to the son, because he wanted to save some for the son that was earning his way. A few days later, the younger son gathered all he had and traveled to a distant region. And there he squandered his wealth, dissolute living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout that region. He began to be in need. Selah. When you read this passage, and I'm going to encourage you to make it a theme passage for the week, read it again, and be sure that you're aware of what else comes to your imagination in your remembrance as the Spirit gently invites you to let go of your own guilt and shame. Take a breath. When we read Scripture, it's important to take a breath when you feel like, oops, something just bumped my heart. Stay there. It's like a gathering nourishment from fruits on the tree. When you get that feeling of nourishment, stop. Selah. Let the silence, which is the really language that God speaks, until you get a feeling of connection. That's where the Spirit's at work in you, bringing new awareness. He squandered his wealth in dissolute living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout that region. And he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that region, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He would gladly have filled his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating. No one gave him anything. Pigs first, you later, if there's anything left. But when he came to his senses, that's a good one. It took his pain of being gathering up and squandering his wealth that he received from his father for him to come to his senses. What makes you come to your senses about situations at home, work, family, church? What brings you to your senses? Pause with that. Give a Selah to that. Came to his senses. How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare? And here I am dying of hunger. I will get up and go to my father and will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of his hired hands. So he set off and went to his father. That's a great line coming up now. But while he was still far off, his father saw him, put his arms around him, and kissed him. So one of the daily projects of his father was to look out. He was always alert in case he comes back. I don't know how long it took, but that was his daily agenda, looking for his lost son. Until finally, he saw him from afar off. This was his daily habit of doing this every single day. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, Father, this is sort of like his stock phrase, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Have you ever felt detached from God in your life? I was talking to a young man yesterday at the rummage sale who claims he's an atheist because what his experience, and he was, quite aware of different countries around that he had visited in his project that he was a project manager of. He said, hey, so many different people have theories about God. They all seem to come from power, to be, whatever seems to help me. So the center of gravity is not on whoever God is, but on the self. So he just gave up on all that. People believe what they want about God from their perspective. I was suggesting to him, like I did last week, about give up notions about God. Give up ideas about God. And in a sense, give up the whole idea of God so that in that emptiness, in that silence, in those Selah moments, God can speak. And he was searching, I could tell. And I just listened to him and did what I could for him in that conversation. I've sinned against heaven and before you, no longer worthy to be called your son. Yada, yada, yada. But the father said to his slaves, quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet, and get the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost, is found. And they began to celebrate. So ever faithful son in the fields, he was out in the field, and as he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of the slaves and asked what was going on. He replied, your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he has got him back safe and sound. And he became angry. Stop right there. Watch what happens when you feel anger. Watch what you feel it, okay. Just let it be and wait for Selah to shift it away from anger, which is highly self-centered, to say the least. He became angry. His father came out and began to plead with him. But he answered his father, listen. How rude. The son said to his father, listen. For all these years I've been working like a slave for you. And I never disobeyed your command. Yet you have never given me, even a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. How despicable of you, Dad. Never gave you anything. But when this son of yours comes back, he who has devoured your assets with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him. So the fatted calf was the big prize. That was the indication that you're really on good terms with Daddy. Fatted calf. Gives it to the lost son. Wow, that really riled up the older son with anger. You killed the fatted calf for him. So the father says to him, Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. The son didn't know that. He figured he'd have to work for it. He'd have to be, really nice and polite and do what his father wants at all times. That's when he thought, okay. But we had to celebrate this, his father goes on. We had to celebrate and rejoice. Because this brother of yours is not this son of mine. This brother of yours was dead and has come back to life. He was lost and has been found. Have you ever felt lost in your life? Have you ever felt found in your life? What was it that had you feel a time of distance? And you made up for the distance by just making sure you did good things. But the distance was always there. What had you find? It was got to be something to do with this Father of lights that gives blessings unending. And the more we know about the cosmos and how it all began, which we're getting some insights into with the Webb telescope and some of the extraordinary experiences in astronomy. Millions, billions of galaxies that hold billions of stars. Here we are, that little tiny dot that Voyager 1 caught before it went out into outer space, and they shut the camera off so that it could preserve energy for other things they were going to find. And little blue dot in the cosmos, in the dark. Little blue dot. All of us are here. Older sons, young sons, presumptive sons, is that a word? And just wanting to work and earn whatever God is. We got to earn our way back. Some churches fell into that. Merit. You get merit badges. No merit badges. It's just the Father giving you all of his love, all of God's love. So I'm hoping that you'll do something this week with this passage. That you'll read it again. You'll ponder it again. Maybe jot down some notes. So that you can put all the energy of your restoration, whatever needs to be restored in your life, no matter what you've lost, you're found when you know that the Father of lights, the Father of life, is still beaming down great, great grace. Lord, that is our prayer. That is our prayer because we want to make sure that something happened after this reading in which the two brothers maybe eventually got into a conversation with each other. They hadn't been very communicative for years and years and years. Maybe after all of the hubbub and the celebration and the anger of the older brother calms down, can you picture what it would be like to have a reconciling conversation between the two of them. If you needed that in your life with anybody, just offer space, Selah, breath, and quietly let a person that might be aggrieved for you or upset with you or whatever with you to just say, tell me more. I want to hear your pain. If family members that aren't used to doing that would start doing that, some of the breaches that take place with families have been stuck on not bothering with each other, families that are disjoined. Just say, I wonder if I could just listen to your pain. Just do it. Listen a lot. When you find that the person is finished being listened to, they might then listen to you. And then you would feel this silent restoration that could take place. That's my prayer, oh God. For every one of us here that take a little particle of this parable and see themselves in it. Especially, Lord, may they see you in it. In your holy name I pray.